Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another fantastic day of sim racing here in AMX Global League Season 3. We are coming to you from high above Laguna Seca, racing Toyota GR86s today in AMX 0, not to mention AMX 10. That's coming up later on. You guys know the drill, and if you don't, we'll break it down for you in just a few moments. Suffice it to say, it's going to be a great day, and here to make it even better is my co-commentator, Marco Barbanera. Marco, how are you doing?
Doing fantastic. Reed, thank you for having me once again. Looks like an exciting night of action coming our way.
Well, it's GR86s, which statistically have been the best. I don't know about the statistics, but it's been a great car every time we've raced it this season. Certainly a little bit more accessible than taking a Formula One car around the track. So I'm expecting it to be some of our drivers' favorite cars. And we do have a lot of drivers joining us, including a lot of new faces to AMX Global League Season 3. It's a little bit late in the season for you guys, but don't worry. We've got more in store. So it's exciting to see some new faces here, Marco.
Absolutely. Never too late to join sim racing, especially because, seasons keep coming and going. And so you can get your, pre-season in season, so you can already get up to speed and be more than ready next season.
That's right. It's never too old to be a racing commentator either, is it, Marco?
Absolutely, as I can show you.
I was going to say, we're both great examples of that. And it's going to be a great example of AMX Global League Season 3 here. Also, keep in mind, if you win any prize money today, tomorrow, whenever, and you don't cash out by the end of the season, we're going to roll it over to the next season. Don't worry about it. You're going to get paid eventually. So let's talk about what and where and how we're doing what we're doing today. This is AMX Global League Season 3. It's a $25,000 tournament, and we run it for about 3 months up until December 17th. We do have an interesting format here. If you're not used to racing in AMX, this is what it looks like. AMX, I like to think like, BMX, like the bicycle trick, ESPN X Games kind of thing. This is like AMX, so it's like a little bit more intense than that. 15-minute qualifier, 15-minute heat 1, then 15-minute heat 2, and we're reverse gridding the top 15 drivers in between, which turns things into crazy town and takes us into the fourth dimension. It is crazy. It's wonderful. It's amazing. And it's definitely not a tournament like anything you've ever seen before. We do like to see you, so if you have a camera and you want to turn it on, we're going to give you an extra $1 for joining in AMX 0. You can find the link to our video call on our website or by joining our Discord, AMX Global League Discord. We'd love to see you there. We do pay out over $100 balances every month, and we are racing Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday if you are in the Americas region, and we'll break down some of those time zones for you right about now. If you are in the Americas, due to time zone changes, we will be starting on 6:50 p.m. and 8:20 p.m. If you already changed your time zones, then don't worry about it. We got you covered. On the weekend, we start around noon, and that's going to be a pretty good time for you guys out there. If you're in Europe, well, here's a look at the European times in Central European Time. CET. Yeah. We're starting at midnight on Thursday, so it's some late night racing for you guys. Consider this Wednesday night, Thursday morning, whatever you want to think about it. And in the evenings on the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, starting at 5:50 with AMX 10 races starting at 7:20 p.m. Here's a look at the prize pool for this season. For AMX, for every single AMX 0 race, we have a $100 prize pool on the line. We're giving away prizes for every single section of the race. For qualifiers, Heat 1 and Heat 2, you can see the breakdowns up there on your screen, with an extra $1 for fastest lap and another extra $1 if you turn on your camera and join via the video link on our website, amxrace.com. We're not just racing for money this season. Thanks to our partners at Next Level Racing, we are giving the AMX 0 champion a chance at a GT Lite Pro. Maybe you're looking to upgrade your rig, and if you are looking to do so, either you can become the champion of AMX 0, or you can head on over to Next Level Racing and see any of the fine sim racing or flight sim cockpits that they make over there. We want to give a big shout out to Next Level Racing for partnering with us this season for Season 3 of AMX Global league to level up our prize pool and make it even cooler for the champions of AMX Zero. Now, here's a look of what the championship looks like for AMX Zero. If you want to take a look at your screen, it is the AMX Zero Top 12. Corentin Guinez, Jackson Resenge, and Gerardo Ramos round out the top 3. And we do have really a who's who of some of the best racers out there. And you're going to see a couple of things. One, the numbers are high. Two, a lot of these racers have raced a lot this season. And really, that's kind of what we're trying to encourage. We want you to come out here and race a lot in AMX, and we're going to reward you for it with a lot of money. And you'll notice some changes there on the leaderboard with Gaston Calavi climbing up a little bit, and the same thing for Facundo Rago, who climbs up into 11th there at the bottom of the AMX Zero Top 12 standings. Now, if you want a little bit of a power ranking, here's a look at the average winnings per race. We give out prize money based on how you perform, so your total amount of prize money should be an accurate representation of how you perform. And no surprise, way up there at the top of the standings is Corentin Guinez, Karen Harrison, and Gustavo Ariel, who have come out here. And even though you see some polarization here where Corentin Guinez has raced 19 times and has a high average win rate, you have a Gustavo Ariel who's only raced 3 times and still has a very, very strong average because he's placed really highly every time he's raced. So kind of a look at the top racers from AMX Zero this season. And we're excited to see a lot of these guys racing with us here today. So you should get a chance to see what they look like when they enter the AMX Zero race coming up here in just a few minutes. And if I'm not mistaken, that just about does it for our announcements. So it's time for me to turn things over to Marco to break down what and where we're racing in AMX Zero today.
Thank you so much, Reed. Yes, we are ready to go, and it's looking beautiful. High above Laguna Seca in Monterey, California, a legendary racetrack that has written historical pages in NASCAR, in IndyCar, and of course in sports car racing and in bike racing as well. Home of the legendary corkscrew. You know, we had it last week when we were in Aragon, but this is the proper corkscrew, of course. Track where it's so difficult to overtake. It has gone some changes in real life, but thankfully in iRacing we still have the OG version with none of the tarmac runoff stuff that they put on in real life in time for the IMSA race this season. And what are we going to race here? Well, we are racing a car that's quite popular in iRacing, a free car, the Toyota GR86 Cup car, which has been introduced fairly recently on iRacing. It's a free car for everybody. It's the official car for the North American Toyota GR86 Cup that you can basically drive on the sim. And it's quite an amazing car. Rear-wheel drive, 230 brake horsepower, all the beautiful stuff that you can have in a modern race car. So much fun, a car that you can basically also, if you have the money, buy for yourself. Sadly, not in Italy. I'll tell the story later. Super, super fun car, free track. These are my favorite combinations because basically free race as well. No, Reed, so you can simply, time is almost up to join, but you can basically, join this race just with your iRacing subscription.
Yeah, that's right. That's the idea with AMX Zero. The zero is because it costs zero money to race in this race. And so if you are an iRacing subscriber, it's a free track, free car. Hop on in and join us for what should be a pretty fun race. Like I said earlier, we do have a lot of racers joining us here today, which should make things even more exciting than normal. We're happy to have you alongside us as we race here tonight. And you can join at any time during qualifiers. So you got plenty of time. If you're listening right now, or maybe your friends are racing, maybe you're the mom cheering your kid on, you can also go into your mom sim racer and try to beat your kid or whoever it is in game. That's an important qualifier there. And I'm looking forward to seeing whatever we have coming our way today. Who knows what we're going to get. I like to predict when we get into qualifiers and see what happens, but I am often horrendously wrong. So I'm going to leave it up to our racers today to show me exactly what we have in store. And we are out here on Laguna Seca. It is a little bit deserty out there, so it's going to be a hot day on the tarmac. So let's see if that changes up how our racers are racing. But one thing's for sure, this iconic view, corkscrews just look epic no matter where you have them. Big, little, everywhere around. It's exciting to see just basically whatever you're racing on Laguna Seca. So even though there's not a lot of vegetation out there, if you're outside the car, you're walking through the desert, you're going to have a rough time. But if you're inside the car, it's going to be a good time tonight. We've got plenty of time for anecdotes from Marco. We've got plenty of time to introduce our new racers. We've got plenty of time to check out who and what is going to look good and bad today in our GR86s. And we're underway qualifying for the start of 15 minutes of group qualifiers here today. And we also get a chance to look at a lot of the new racers that we have today. Almost up to 30 racers. I'm excited, Marco.
Big grid, as I'm looking through the live timing page, which you can access on the it was a bit of Italian, on the YouTube page, for example. Click on there and it will open for you, and of course look at the beautiful QR code that you can scan with your mobile device. Big grid and a track that, again, not very big in and of itself, very narrow, complicated at points, as we are riding on board with Simon Demori racing towards the hairpin. There we go. This is a very complicated bit of the track now. It's a difficult corner if you don't know how to approach it. And one thing that I always like to tell in commentary, which I will tell once again, so I'm sorry if you heard it before, sure you have here on AMX, but the way you take the corkscrew in iRacing is the same way you take it in real life. Basically, the drivers like to aim for a particular tree that's also been reproduced in iRacing. Among a set of trees that are there in real life and in iRacing, there is that specific tree that you have to aim for, and if you aim straight for the tree, the car will be well prepared to take over the bump and down on the downhill section. I've tried it. I was skeptical at first many years ago when they told me this. It works. So I'm sure these drivers already know about this. This is one of those tough corners, and especially, Reed, when you are, let's say, on a single monitor setup in your sim rig, it's actually more difficult to take in real life, in sim racing. Then in real life, you have no feeling with the weight transfer of the car. That's very noticeable, of course, in real life, as the car goes up the corkscrew and down the hill. So it's quite a nice help to have.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was, looking at some of the most recent sim racing expos that were happening out there. Not to name a few names, but it was really impressive to see what happens once you get some of these incredible, like the big force feedback sim racing rigs. They've got the straps, the seat belts, a lot of different ways of helping you get the feel for what it is like to drive a car down big corkscrews like this. The elevation changes is crazy. We were racing Mount Panorama a few days ago, and that's another one where you really have to get the feel for how powerful it is when you're slinging it down the inside through corkscrews like this. It can be absolutely electrifying. It's exciting to watch. It's exciting to feel in the sim rig, and I can only imagine, Marco, that it's exciting to feel in real life, though I will have to just keep imagining until I have a GR86 of my own.
Which is, something I was looking forward to, even though it's quite a pricey car, even not that pricey. Sadly, here in Italy, or here in Europe, I should say, there is a limitation on how many, big and powerful high-emission sort of cars you can sell as a company before incurring into the European Union penalties, basically, no? So to get a GR86 in Italy and therefore in the European Union, basically you have to join a wait list, which is a bit sad. Of course, the environment is important to protect. But this is a very, very nice car. And again, for a sports car of this kind, it's not that expensive. As many people know, this is a one-on-one copy shared with the Subaru BRZ. So you have both options. The only thing that changes basically is the some design cues, but the car is basically the same. In fact, in Italy, we call it the Toyo Baru, no? Subaru, we say not. But again, a nice entry-level car in real life and in iRacing. We see the very first times on the board. Belziti, Harrison, and Diego Villarreal, your top three down, Gaston Culavi and Corentin Guinness. Of course, it's Belziti, Harrison, Gaspar Miranda, and Pedro Din. Top 5 on your screen right now, and of course we can expect the times to start going down further and further as we progress in the session. There we go. Corentin Guinness, provisional position.
And it's a great question, Marco, as we expected to see the times going down and down and down and down and down. What are we looking for? Well, if you're talking about records on Laguna Seca, there's a lot. And specifically for these cars, what I was seeing was down in the low 136s, and so I'm glad to see us already there. So it's always interesting to me to see sort of what the limit is for racing cars, drivers, tracks, because it's kind of what we're all here to figure out, right? What's the limit? How fast can you drive? How fast can you put it around whatever track we're racing with whatever car we have here? And it's not directly going to mirror real life. And a lot of people will say, well, that's because it's just a simulator. But I like to think that it's a little bit more than that, right? Obviously, it is not totally real life, but it is about as close as you can get to it here, specifically on iRacing 2. And I would not chalk that down to saying, oh, well, it's just because the simulator is not real. A lot of times it can be because either you have a little bit more confidence because you don't have to worry about crashing in real life, but also it can be because you are able to practice it a lot more on the sim than you are able to in real life. And Laguna Seca is a pretty popular track, so you might imagine a lot of our racers here have a lot of experience, maybe even more so than people racing this would have in real life if they're just counting, numbers of laps done on this track. That's going to be a pretty small number of people that have a ton of laps done on this in real life. But in the sim, you can actually get a lot more practice, and we might be about to see that here today.
It's quite incredible because this is something I always like to talk about, but I never talk about in broadcasting. It's especially when you talk about multi-class series, you notice there is a decent swing between real-life times and sometimes sim racing time, especially on iRacing, but also in other places as well. For the price of iRacing, which of course it's a subscription system, it's not incredibly expensive,
right,
though, if you think about in the big scheme of things. It's going to be, I think it's like $30 for the 3-month subscription, which you have to add the cars and stuff. But for the price of what you get, the simulation is incredibly, as we have a little bit of crazy moment here in Quali. It's incredible the level of detail you can recreate basically from your living. When the times, there is a big swing in times, usually happens like in GT3 prototypes, but that's a lot to do with the real life balance of performance, which the series in real life employ to keep things balanced, and of course iRacing has its own balance of performance. I'll tell you this quick story. In 2014, if I'm not mistaken, or 2015, there was a double header for WEC and IMSA at Circuit of the Americas. They were racing Saturday and Sunday. And the Extreme Speed Motorsports, the Tequila Patron team, basically, was fielding 2 cars. One raced in the IMSA race and one raced in the WEC race. And they were the exact same car, an LMP car. And the WEC race, their car lapped 5 seconds faster on average per lap, because the balance of performance in IMSA was so extreme on one side, because they had to balance them with the DP back then, or the Daytona prototypes. So even in real life, depending on the balance of performance, you can have wild swings in the same category. And the same happens in Daytona. Sometimes they say, in iRacing the GT3 is a lap 3 seconds faster per lap in Daytona. It's not realistic. No, simply it's the way the balance of performance is applied. And I'm sure the same goes for every other category. Of course, the tires are a factor, and the track temperature, of course, is a factor. The rain will be a factor, hopefully very soon. There is a new development update video from iRacing, just came out. I haven't had the time to see it because I had to cut the broadcast. But after this broadcast, go and check it out on their channel. Knows what juicy news they have in there.
I actually did have a chance to check it out with some of the rest of the team members here today, and it looks fantastic. I almost thought that it was like pre-processed or like pre-rendered, but it is actually the in-game footage, and I could not believe it. I actually wasn't even looking at the rain, which, by the way, looks incredible. The rest of the graphics, they have a lot of cool stuff in the update. I'm not going to spoil it for Marco or for the rest of you out there, but head on over to iRacing's YouTube channel. They got a lot of cool stuff going on in the update, and it's really cool to see how much they keep leveling up and upgrading the quality of the service out there. just really all the time. New tracks, new cars, and it's been a crazy year. 2023, if you're an iRacing fan, has been about the best you can hope for. So a lot of cool things to come, and even in the AMX Global League, we're going to be showcasing a lot of these changes as they hit the service. So it's going to be an exciting place to race because you can come out here, see what it's like firsthand. It's going to be really, really awesome as we move forward this season and next season coming up. So let's actually talk a little bit more about qualifying as we kind of coast to the end of our AMX 0 Race 26 qualifying here. We're through 10 minutes, which means it's the final 5 minutes of qualifying, and with about a minute and a half time around the track. That means that this is going to be the time. If you have a fast lap in you, now is the time to put it down on the track. And we're watching Fabrizio Belzini, who has really put it down a comparable time. 1:36.5 is only a few tenths off of our top three, so absolutely something we can see him improve on. He is sitting there cool and comfortable with that 7.1 KI rating up amongst some of the gods. We got a few black bars out there. The pro licenses are there for a reason. These guys are so good, and so it's going to be exciting to see what they can do for us here today. Miro Reguibi, if I'm not horribly murdering that name, and I assume that I am. It's a struggle, guys, but I'm doing my best here. A newcomer to AMX. He's racing his first AMX race here today, and so it's going to be exciting to see what he puts up there. Currently sitting in a 1:39.4. He is a little bit newer, and you can see him down there with the yellow bar iRacing rating, but, you know, we never know. That's the great thing about the race. It doesn't matter what your stats say. It matters what you do on the day, and we're going to give him a chance to see what he has to show us here. Currently sitting at a P24, which is a little bit of a higher number than I'm used to saying, just because we do have a lot of racers here today, so there's a lot of opportunities to show off what you got.
And we have little time remaining in the quali session. Of course, it's going to be over as the clock will hit 15 minutes sharp, so there is no added time for the drivers to finish their lap that they maybe start with 11:50. Sorry, 14. That's not the case. That's because we are going straight to the gridding process right after that. And then, of course, it's going to be race 1 and then race 2 back to back, so don't go away here for this GR86 race. Laguna Seca, like I was saying, a track and car combo that you are probably going to find quite often in the rookie. Oh, look at Regibi going very hard on the inside curve. I was saying it's going to be an easy combination to find, as we see for a second get Valero's profile there. Of course, Valero is one of the premier drivers in this championship. We always find him in AMX 10 and you know, sometimes even in AMX 0. Look at the amount of Brazilian drivers. These races in the weekend are perfectly timed for the Brazilian drivers and most of, if not all, of South America. So it's not a surprise to see a big contingent coming from there, as we ride on board with one of the most prominent Brazilian drivers in the series, Fabio Zamperlini, coming out of the final corner, starting, well, he doesn't have time to complete his lap because he's on his out lap, so he's just testing stuff out there, and then he's going to start at most 7. Well, there's going to be
what if he does like a 45-second lap, Marco?
I mean, yes. I mean, there is also that possibility. The car would probably fail inspection, but, you know, still a possibility.
You open the hood, there's like alien technology inside. You're like, hey, what's going on here? But yeah, then he neuralizes you. But either way, we did see some incredible performances here. No surprise to anybody seeing Quarantine Ganez up there at the top. He's going to be watching from the pits as everybody else tries to beat him. But for guys like Gustavo Ariel, Karen Harrison, Fabrizio Belzini, and Victor Miranda, no strangers to the top 5 up there. Really, really exciting to see these qualifiers come through, because we're paying out the prize pool for qualifiers. And that means that as we close our qualifying session and take a look at the final results, we are really going to get a chance to see real prize money being won, even just here in qualifiers. So it makes it a little bit more exciting. There's always money on the line, and beyond that, just pride, power rankings, everything. This is how it looks. Quarantine Ganez is your pole sitter. For now, he's going to get reverse gridded in just a second, but for now, he is sitting on top of the standings with Gustavo Ariel, Kieran Harrison, Fabrizio Belziti, and Victor Miranda rounding out your top 5. And as we reverse grid the top 15, that means that for the start of heat number 1, it'll be Dorian Lelievre in the top spot. I apologize for what I just did to his name there. Castagalavi right underneath it. And Facundo Rago following suit in P3. Once we swap things up, you are going to see the cars pop up on the grid here any moment now as we flip things around and get ready for heat number 1 and get started with, the first actual race for race 26. It's going to be exciting, and I cannot wait to get this started, Marco.
It's going to be fantastic. The revs are rising. It's a uphill climb, then downhill for turn 1 di Andretti Erpin. So, buckle up.
At any moment. And actually, one of the reasons that it's taking a little bit longer to get AMX 0 race 26 heat number 1 underway is because we have so many cars to pop on the grid. Like we said, almost 30 racers joining us here today. It's just goes to show that the more we race throughout season 3, the more people are getting on board, the more drivers we have coming out to see what's going on here, and it's exciting to see the hype building and really getting a lot of attention in the sim racing community. Thank you to everybody else out there. If you're telling your friends out there, if you're watching, if you're driving, you're racing, wherever you are, big thanks for joining us here today as we get started for what is going to be one of our biggest races of the season here in AMX 0 race 26. We are underway racing GR86s out here on Laguna Seca. Let's see what the opening looks like. Already with the reverse grid, we've got Simone de Mori +2 up into the top 3. We have a big drop here by Lelievre, who really had a rough start off the top. Victor Miranda climbing up past him, up the standings, and already we got Vinicius Dean way down there at the back, trying to make his way up the standings. That's right. We do have an unfortunate first to last situation down there, and another spin, though a nice recovery. Big save there by the green livery on your screen. The pole sitters in the top 5 really are going to boost a rocket into the distance as we start to see some big moves being made here. Swerving in on the inside is Victor Miranda, who along with his Texaco liveried compatriot Gustavo Ariel, I believe that is, are making some big moves through the middle of the pack. Actually, I guess it's the upper part, as Zamperlini is now climbing up with Gustavo right alongside him. And so a bad start for Dorian Lelievre. He then got punted out into the wall, so disaster of a start for the reverse position as we are feeding and banging and leaving everything on the line. This is a fantastic fight. Kulavi, Rago, De Mori, the top 3 with Ili and Miranda. The guy that got spun later and saved it, I think Kieran Harrison, down into 18th place. Yeah, it's a rough start for him after he got reverse gridded. He's -5, but still lots of race for. So let's see what that looks like. And yeah, you expect to see things like that. A lot of times it's not just how fast you are, but how well you can deal with difficult situations. So we might have a few of those difficult situations as we look for maybe a new pole sitter here. Oh, actually, no, it's not pole. I didn't see where we were in the standings. It's Connor Healy. He's doing his best to battle Victor Miranda up top. We've got Kyle Gaspar, who got reverse gridded way back here, who's dueling it out with new racer Sofiato. Never seen this guy before, and I'm excited to see what he's going to be able to do in the back of the grid here today. As we watch this battle I was talking about earlier between Connor Healy and Victor Miranda, it is intense. Miranda is not content to be where he is, and he's already looking to make moves, even though we are only on lap 2 out of 8. So plenty of racing left to go, Marco.
Plenty of racing. Kulavi and Rago are trying to pull a big gap and together with Mori over Connor Healy. Miranda goes past the Australian. By the way, congratulations to Australia and India for making it to the Cricket World Cup final tomorrow, and there is a big crash. Big crash.
Yeah, and that's really going to upset these standings. Look at how many racers are dropping down our timing tower. That is going to absolutely destroy any predictions anybody had made already. But for what is on your screen right now, it really does seem like Galavi, Rago, Mori, Miranda, Healy are driving your top 5 way off the track there. That is not inside track limits, and that is Jackson Resenge, who takes a big wide trip around the outside and slots right back into where he was. No real advantage there, but still got to keep it on track and keep things clean here as Resenge looks to climb his way up into the top 5, though he still has a lot of competition ahead of him.
Big fight here in the Andretti Hairpin as we are riding on board with Canorilli as Zamperlini. I think has had a little bit of a problem. Healy is following closely there, and now battling hard with Gustavo Ariel in the blue and orange car as Gaston Culavi, Facundo Rago and Simon De Mori pulled basically 3 seconds gap over Victor Miranda, but of course Miranda has been involved in a bit of a fight. As you see the Pedro Jean crash here, as the magenta car there has received a little bit of help, I think, as you can see, and going for a spin there, going up the hill, basically in this spot of the racetrack where we are right now with the live cameras.
I think we have 2 Deans racing with us, Pedro Dean and Vinicius Dean. I didn't really realize that was quite as common a name, but we'll see which one finishes higher. We're on board now with Jackson Resenge. Looking at his rearview mirror, he's got Connor Healy, Gustavo Ariel, and Corentin Guinez, all incredible racers right behind him. So he is leading this pack by just a little bit, but for how long, Marco? We've got 3 laps done in the record books, just about, and we are heading towards the second half. A big spin in the backpack. That is Connor Healy down from whence he came. Minus 10 on the spin, and he is out of there.
Big wreck there, and Canorilli having a tough race as we are battling it out again on the front stretch with Ariel, Guinez and Resenge, 3 of the biggest names in the series, fighting it out for well, what is now 6th place, but I'm sure they're aiming for higher placement in this amazing race. As you know, in the front, keep an eye on Miranda. He has gained 8/10 of a second over the last lap over the top 3. So, very, very tasty from the end of the race as Guinez and Resenge keep going at it. Oh wow, that was all sorts of sideways for the Brazilian. And now he has to lift and defend from Belziti.
Yeah, wow, and you can see the green car of maybe Kieran Harrison. It was number 14 getting collected back there. So that was Kieran, who unfortunately ran right into the side of a very horizontal Zamperlini. Tries to get it back underway. We'll see what the damage does to his times here today. If he can keep it in the top 15, then he will be able to get reverse gridded out of that for heat number 2. So let's see what it looks like. It's Fabrizio Belziti, a guy that qualified quite well in the top 5 early on. Finds himself. Yep. Okay, all right. I think we're back, maybe, possibly. If you are back with us, then let us know in the chat. We apologize for the minor inconvenience, but it does look like we have rejoined perfectly at the end of the session. So don't worry about it. We'll try to catch you up on whatever happened. If you guys are in the race or have extra pit lane reporting information, once again, let us know in the chat, or you can hop onto our Discord server, tweet at us. We'd love to hear from you because we were not in the session. So anyway, here's the way it looks. Wow. I have no idea how we got here, but let's take a look at our session winner. It's Gaston Culavi. He finishes in first place with Victor Miranda, Gustavo Ariel, and Josh Perwin. Simon De Mori rounding out the top 5. Wow. The SimRC Bash Bros down in 11th and 12th. They'll get reverse graded a little bit higher. We do have some of our newcomers, guys like Junior, Ronaldo, they're in 13th, and Dorian Levre, a guy that started in first in the number 1, down in 15th. He'll get reverse gridded back into first, and that's quite the polarizing performance from him today. Marco, what do you think?
Well, exciting times, and yes, we have to trust us on the finishing result of the race, but they will be freely available for you, and we are starting the race now.
Okay, wow. No time to relax. We're into heat number 2. Let's see what it looks like as we get off the grid. Who's got the good starts? Who's got the bad ones? Resenje with a nice one, and I'm actually really impressed. We are keeping it pointed the right direction. As I say that, I'm sure we're going to have some carnage around this corner. No! Okay, maybe a little bit. There's the big spin. Okay, that's not the right way you're supposed to go. Everybody else looks like they're doing okay, but look at the timing tower. What is happening, Marco?
I have no idea because I think something must have happened, some crazy happening. First we miss basically half of the race, and then, unless I'm very much mistaken, we didn't have the reverse grid. So we started with the starting order, the finishing order of race 1. And now this big crash at the beginning leaves Gustavo Ariel leading the way 1.5 seconds over Facundo Rago and Josh Purwin, then Kieran Harrison and Fabrizio Belziti.
Yeah, wow, Marco. Never a dull moment here in AMX Global League Season 3. Wow. No, I don't even know what to say. It is not every day you get a chance to throw this much of a wrench in the spanner. So, wrench in the spanner, spanner in the works. That's anyway. It's a brave new world for all of us.
That's how the turntables,
Oh, it is indeed. No, we've tabled all of our turns so far, and as we watch these guys go around the turns on your screen, that's my attempt at a segue, Marco. It is a little bit weird because I was expecting guys like Quarantine Ganez and Kieran Harrison to get reverse gridded up to the top. Wow, so cool. They're going to be in the lead. But actually, they kind of did it for themselves, right? We had that huge crash, and now Kieran Harrison and Quarantine Ganez are back up in the top 5, with Quarantine Ganez fighting Fabrizio Belziti for it right now. And if you look at the unreverse gridded people down towards the 15th place, we got Fernandez, very newcomer to AMX Global League Season 3. He's up in 15th after a +3. That's not bad. We unfortunately did lose some guys like Kyle Gaspar, who fell out earlier, and we do have some of the back of the pack climbing up through it after restarting their race, with guys like Reguibi, Gillot, and Zamperlini climbing up through the back of the pack. We should see them make some moves here in just a second. Hopping on board with Quarantine Ganez as he comes alongside Facundo Rago, fighting for that top 5 tenths, hundredths, thousandths of a second, and there he goes on through. Will he be able to hold on to it? It looks like the answer is now, as he comes through what I would call a cyclone toilet bowl. There's so many names for corkscrews, but that's what we named it, so here we go. Seeing Quarantine Ganez masterfully navigate one of the most complex parts of the racetrack and do so into 5th place as we hop on board with his teammate Kieran Harrison, who is waiting for him up into 3rd, making it look good as he leads one of the closest packs in the race right now. That 2nd, 3rd, 4th battle for 2nd is really heating up, Marco.
It absolutely is, as Gustavo Ariel pulls away, but the fight behind him is going to be incredible. Here we go, we are on board with the Australian. Like I said, 9:30 Central European time tomorrow morning for the Cricket World Cup final between Australia and India. So don't miss that. Of course, a little bit earlier, it should segue perfectly from the F1 Grand Prix. It's a couple of hours earlier, of course.
Marco, is there
in
a
Las
sport
Vegas
that you don't watch?
Volleyball, I don't like it.
Yeah, what's up with that? They hit the ball, they get in it more than one time, there's so many people, there's a net. Why isn't the net bigger? I don't know. That's how I feel about tennis. Although I will say tennis is actually incredible when you're watching really, really good players play it. I don't know. I think a lot of sports, it's a little bit less evident how good players are. But yeah, tennis, golf, maybe you can really tell the difference. And actually, sim racing is one of those. You can absolutely tell the difference when it is of one of the best players versus somebody that's just starting out. Especially when we look at this battle for 8th in the bottom right-hand corner. That's actually more intense than a lot of the battles for 1st that I've seen. Really, really cool to see such great racers, not only at the top with Gustavo Ariel, Purwin, Harrison, Belziti, Ganez, that top 5. When you crank it down to the bottom 8, we have Lelevre, Ronaldo, Zamperlini, and Mora fighting it out. That's really incredible to see so many of our new racers fighting for such high spots.
Fantastic stuff in the fight for second place, with Josh Purwin defending for his life right now. Kieran Harrison side by side with him on the outside of the Andretti hairpin. That is sadly not the way to go, even though, you know, we appreciate the bravery there. Harrison now again tries for the outside move on the Australian, as Fabrizio Belziti and Corentin Guinez are waiting sort of patiently, say patiently, behind them, waiting for a moment, bounce and gain some positions as well.
Wow, so intense, and we really have no idea how to predict anything, because look at what we're watching on the screen. Kieran Harrison, Guinez, Belziti fighting side by side almost. That's the order for now, as the SimRC teammates have rejoined each other once again. That third, fourth place spot belongs to the German team. We'll see how much they can do with it, whether or not it changes, because we've got Facundo Rago and Fabrizio Belziti, members of Voracious Esports, the teammates also right behind them. So it's an all-team affair up there for third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. And right below that, we've got Victor Miranda and a whole host of TK Racing by Tony Kanaan coming up behind him. So really cool to see not only the racers doing individually well, but also their teams being very well represented towards the top of the grid. Beautiful stuff here. Again, the fight continues, and Harrison has got a very good run. He will once again have to look on the outside though, because Purwin is really glued to that white line as we had for the Andretti hairpin. Once again, big deep dive around the outside by the British driver, but once again the Aussie is able to hold the position, goes a bit wide now. He will have a poor exit, and once again Harrison will go for the outside with Guinez waiting and licking his lips, because I think he knows that he could potentially pass both of them at the same time if they make contact. But look at also Belziti there behind them, you know, he's waiting as well for an opportunity. Here we go once again down the inside, and still this time no dice. That's right, side by side we go. We're on lap 5 out of 8, plenty of time to keep this going, but look at how close these drivers are. Kieran Harrison making a move past Corentin Guinez, and now almost threatening Josh Purwin, who's managed to stick himself into P2. This is an incredible fight, Marco, and we're only going to see it keep getting more and more intense. I kind of thought they were going to slipstream their way through the corkscrew, but no, they're using that downhill momentum to reach even higher top speeds, keep this race going, keep the fight going up top, because Kieran Harrison is absolutely looking to pull alongside as soon as he gets the chance. And here he might actually going wide a little bit. He slots right back in and might actually use this for another trip right around the outside, wheel to wheel, but no, he falls right back around as the racing line continues. What a move. We've got Gustavo Ariel in the front setting new lap records as we hop on board with Josh Purwin. It's cool to see the front and back view of this car, what it looks like from Kieran Harrison's perspective and Purwin's, as we might know. Whoa, we gotta look inside the gearbox there.
I mean, Josh Purwin is defending for his life there. He's been closing the door left, right and center, lap after lap. He has to resist for 3 more laps, because this is going to be, you can see Harrison is clearly faster, but you have to make the overtake. Purwin is really skirting the rule book to defend as hard as he can, you know, without doing anything too egregious. And we'll see how long he can last, and we'll see how long Harrison will be patient and not go for you know, the aggression levels from Harrison are building up, especially because he has Guinez, Miranda, and now Belziti as well, so close to him behind. So this is going to be a fantastic fight. Let's see who's going to behave first.
That's a great point, Marco. Look at what we got coming alongside. Kieran Harrison losing that third place spot to his teammate, but no, Guinez, after trying to fight for that spot, has to fall back a little bit, losing even more. Now Guinez dropping down to 7th after an unsuccessful overtake opportunity. He was really sending it down the inside and couldn't make it stick, which puts Victor Miranda and Fabrizio Belziti up into that 4th, 5th striking spot as we hop right back on board with Josh Purwin. Now he has even more carnage going on in his rearview mirror. We've got this battle, and I don't think we're going to lose it for the rest of the race as we come through. The checkered flag not flying right just yet, but the white flag will come out in 1 lap's time, Marco. Look at how close, how intense things are still maintaining. Kieran Harrison looks like he's going for it again. He finds himself on the outside line as he maintains the spot. Quarantine Ganez, having lost it, is regaining at a very voracious pace. This sixth place for him. He is contesting 5th as the top 5, top 6 separated by just tenths of seconds, Marco.
I think this is a fantastic fight. I don't know, of course, you guys can't see me. I think our production crew, Kenna, was smiling a few seconds ago as they were zipping past the start-finish line to start lap number 7, because it is absolutely amazing. Our leader has checked out, but you know, this is still amazing racing, because any one of these drivers, everyone in this queue could finish on the podium. Only 2 of them will be able to do so, as Kieran Harrison is now trying everything he can, again, around the outside of the course group.
Whoa!
That's not the way to go, but he's still trying anyways. He will have to pull a Zanardi.
No!
Oh, they touch!
Spinning wide, a big tap on the inside. Not quite a pit, but it's good enough to keep Kieran Harrison now in 2nd. Victor Miranda, Quarantine Ganez both climbing back up afterwards, and unfortunately for Fabrizio Belziti and specifically Josh Perwin, he finds himself getting the Quarantine Ganez treatment, spun back down to 7th.
Oh, that was a fantastic battle set for the contact. Really, Harrison tried everything he could to make the pass. He went for sort of a Zanardi move there. Of course, trying to stay, because you cannot do the exact copy of the overtake that Zanardi did in the 90s here, because he will be tagged with a cut track penalty. Unfortunately, the collision, Purwin was able to at least save his car and restart in 7th. But this is far from over in this final lap, because still they are very much close together. We'll see if Miranda will go for a last lap lunge at Kieran Harrison. Fantastic race. Sadly, it has been very short. These 8 laps, probably because it's been so fun, have really gone by in a hurry.
That's exactly how I felt about our previous few laps, Marco. It feels like we just got things started here, and already it's almost over. But before we end, we have a lot to talk about, because anything could happen as we continue to watch the most electrifying part of this race. We started with a grid of almost 30 drivers, and now it's come down to an intense battle for the top 5. Look at what we have. Kieran Harrison and Victor Miranda now battling it back and forth, tooth and nail. Coming alongside, he's thinking about it. Victor Miranda is not going to be content to finish in 3rd. He is looking to climb up the podium as fast as he can here, because time is running out. White flag is already waved, and we are looking for the checkered after just about 2-3 more turns. Let's see how they can finish, because Quarantine Ganez also climbing up behind that, contesting. He's about 3/10 back, and there is the checkered flag. We are moving towards the finish line. One last moment, but it's not going to be enough. The checkered flag waves, and Kieran Harrison, it beats Victor Miranda to the podium. Quarantine Ganez's teammate finishes in 4th, with Fabrizio Belziti rounding out your top 5. The checkered flag could not have waved fast enough. Let's see if we get any more racing down towards the line. Doesn't look like we have any more times that will be shocking upsets, although I was worried there. Fabio Zamperlini was really putting the pedal to the metal, but this is going to be our final standings for the top 15, although it is a relatively controversial one. We did have I guess the craziest sequence of racing situations, Marco, between the mysterious midfield or mid-race of Heat 1 and then Heat 2 being not what we thought it was going to be. I don't think the ending was what we thought it was going to be either, because it could have really gone either way. Such an intense battle. The heat never really dissipated in the top 5, and this is what it looks like coming through to your final heat results of heat number 2. Wow, what a way to finish off our time in AMX 0 here tonight, Marco.
And we are really putting the spice tonight on the proceedings. It looks like it's going to be one of those nights with the, as you were saying, the TV feed cutting out, the reverse grid not being reversed for race 2, and these fantastic battles that we've seen in race 2 especially. I mean, it has been fantastic. Now, for these drivers, a huge challenge, as we see the bank session winner Gustavo Ariel and his almost 11,000 I rating. because we will have to take a hop the other side of the world, basically. And one of the most difficult cars to drive, especially when you jump from car to car, the supercars of the previous generation, of course, the latest generation not being in a racing just yet, they just debuted this year, at one of the most beautiful racetracks in the world, in my opinion, the amazing Sandown Raceway, which is theater every year to the Sandown 500, which is basically the warm-up race to the Bathurst 1000. It's going to be a nice change of pace for these drivers. Sandown is a bit different. Of course, we've had elevation changes here, and the GR86, it's a bit of a calm car, quote-unquote, compared to the supercars, of course. And Sandown is a bit flat, but it's narrow as well like this. A couple of super dangerous corners and some really, really tricky braking areas. I think we're in for a fantastic AMX race coming up soon.
Couldn't agree more, Marco. You're already into the future, but before we finish things out for this race, I just got to say, so much exciting action, nonstop from start to finish, especially for heat number 2, which I guess is really most of the meat and potatoes of what we got a chance to watch. It just never let up. So impressive to see not only our top 5 racers duel it out the whole time, but also we had a lot of new faces joining us. Almost 30 racers on the grid, and so many of them doing well enough to get up even towards that top 15. That's really impressive, especially when you're racing in a tournament like AMX Global League Season 3. That's a little bit different than a lot of the other events out there. So a little bit of chaos, maybe today a lot of bit of chaos, and that is that's the way the cookie crumbles for us in AMX 0 race 26. It really never is the same race twice, so I'm always looking forward to seeing what we have in store for us today. As Marco said, we have another race coming up. It's AMX 10, the pinnacle of competition here in AMX Global League Season 3, and we will have supercars on Sandown with a whole host of some of the best racers in the world coming up after just a short break. But in the meantime, while we're out taking a break, you guys should go over to our social media, follow us, and share your thoughts on today's race with us there. You can see the links right down below your screen where Marco and I are pointing. I think we're pointing down there. Yeah, okay, it's not flipped upside down. It's Twitter and on Instagram. We have a lot of information, a lot of highlights, a lot of announcements posted there. So if you'd like to check those out, we'd love to see you on our social media. We'd also love to see you join us in the AMX Global League Discord. It's a great time. There's tons of opportunities to contact and interact with the top drivers here, ask questions, share your thoughts on what's going on in the wide world of motorsports, but also in AMX Global League Season 3. And so we'd love to have you in the AMX Global League Discord. In the meantime, whether you are driving or watching, we'd love to see you watch and follow us on our streams. So make sure to do that on Instagram and Twitch. And stay tuned because we've got even more iRacing action coming up in just a few moments. Don't go anywhere.
to save our home. We must travel through the gateway to find new energy.
Good eye. Sorry, I meant hello, everyone, and welcome to the bright and sunny Sandown, a iconic racetrack that apparently will be no more. So you got to get it while you can here on the beautiful iRacing. Of course, we are racing the ever iconic Australian supercars down here, and you got a couple to choose from. It's going to be a great race. It's AMX 10, so there's $600 on the line. It's going to be a great day. This whole week has been great races. Very auspicious time for you to be joining us. And if you're in Korea, this past week was Pepero Day, where you give candy sticks to the people that you love and care about. So I got some for you today, Marco. So very happy, auspicious day. I hope you appreciate it. Anyway, glad to have you back here with me, Marco. What do you think about this combo coming up for us in AMX 10 today?
A classic combination, so classic in fact that I forgot to move there with my background. I'm still in America, but I will join you very, very soon. As I was saying earlier, this has been 4 years and still is the warm-up race, so to speak, but still a very important race in the calendar of the Supercar Championship, 500k race, the first one of the two races with driver swaps, and basically the dress rehearsal for the Bathurst 1000, basically 3 weeks after that. So it's really a track that's steeped in history of Australian motorsport and horse racing, because there is a horse racing track on the inside, and the racetrack has been built outside of the perimeter. So quite a beautiful place to go racing. And it's the home of horsepower, of course, not by accident.
No, you know what we need to do, Marco. If you ever watched the World Endurance Championship, you know that it's possible to not just race one kind of car, but multiple kinds. And when it comes to horsepower, what we need to do is have the horses and the cars race the same race. Now, that would not end well. Anyway, this is why I'm not in charge of a race calendar. Either way, it's exciting to be back. Down under, we had, what was it, Mount Panorama earlier in the season, and now we're coming back down for more here on what is, like you said, the preview for Bathurst and a whole host of other iconic races. Many moments to be told about, but before we get into all of that, let's go ahead and run back through the housekeeping for AMX 10. If you've heard it before, you're going to hear it again. $25,000 on the line until December 7th. We run 72 races in a season with a lot of car and track combos, more so than anywhere else. You'll never see this anywhere else, including our race format, which is in fact iconic. Qualifier 15 minutes, then Heat 1 reverse grid, and then, surprisingly, Heat 2 reverse grid also normally. It's the way it's coming up, and so that's what you should expect. We do the reverse grid in between everything, and that really mixes it up. It's going to be exciting to watch, as is your faces. That's right. We do require you to join us via video call through the link on our website, amxrace.com, or through the link in the announcements, part of the AMX Global League Discord, which you can get by Googling for it. Either way, you got to join the video if you want to join AMX 10. This is the pinnacle of racing, and that means that there is a lot on the line. And we're paying that out to you in $100 increments once every month. So, it's actually a pretty cool idea. Instead of waiting until the very end of the league, you get it as you get it. And, of course, we're racing Wednesday, Saturday, Sundays on amxrace.com. Sign up, join us here, and you, too, can be a part of the AMX Global League Season 3. All right, so that does it for our housekeeping. That means that it is time to talk about when we are doing this. If you'd like to join AMX 10, you can do so at 8:20 p.m. on Wednesdays in the Americas time zone, and in the afternoons on the weekends, starting at 1:20 and 1:20. That's the same time on Saturday and Sunday. So come out and join us. If you're in Europe, this is what your times look like. We're coming at you a little bit after midnight, 2:20 for the race start on AMX 10, and on the weekends, we start at 7:20 for AMX 10 races on Saturday and Sunday. So we hope you join us there wherever you are. It's a good time for sim racing, and it's a good time to join AMX Global League Season 3 because it won't be here forever. And so you have a limited time to get in on this. $601 on the line for every AMX 10 race. And we're not just paying you out for the race at the end. We're splitting the prize pool down to the top 15 places for qualifier, Heat 1, and Heat 2. And because it costs $10 to enter, that means that even if you don't place extremely well, you've still got a chance to come out here, win money, and even win yourself enough money to maybe buy yourself a new car or a new track in iRacing. Maybe not in real life. Actually, maybe. Who knows? You could actually just win everything and get yourself a whole lot more than just this prize pool. And indeed, we're racing for a whole lot more than just this prize pool. And thanks to our friends at Next Level Racing, manufacturers of great sim racing cockpits everywhere, they have leveled up our prize pool this season by offering the AMX 10 Champion and FGT Elite as an extra prize. Obviously, this is one of the pinnacle racing cockpits just in general, but also that Next Level Racing offers. So I want to give them a big shout out for hooking us up and partnering with us for AMX Global League Season 3 to give the AMX 10 Champion an FGT Elite. It's a pretty nice prize. And let's take a look at the racers who are in the running to win it. Here's a look at the AMX 10 Top 12. Quarantine Guinness and Gael Valero are headlining the first couple spots. Fabrizio Belziti, Caio Gaspar, and Diogo Pinto round out your top 5. And really, if you're up here on the top 12, you're one of the best racers maybe in the world, but certainly in AMX 10. And really, it is quite competitive. You got guys racing 20, 30 times out here, and that is really what it takes to get your name up here. When it comes to total winnings, already Quarantine Guinness and Gael Valero breaking the $1,000 mark. That's a lot of money. It is, in fact, quite impressive. And even more impressive than that is our power rankings for AMX 10, the average winnings, which is essentially power rankings for this tournament so far. Enzo Bonito raced one time, picked up $95. Similar case for a couple of our outstanding racers, Connor Nixon and Ballas Tirochi. This guy is in third, racing once. He picked up $70. That is incredibly impressive. And, we'll have to see who else can do it. On the cusp of being overtaken is number 12, Max Verstappen, who has raced with us a couple times and has done incredibly well in both of those times, but needs to maybe come back and see if he can climb a little bit up the standings. That's a subtle hint. Either way, it's been great to see any of our racers out here. They've all done incredible jobs, and that's why they're on the AMX 10 Top 12 list for this season. For a limited time only, you too can join AMX 10. Normally, it's called AMX 10 because it costs $10 to enter. There's a $600 prize pool, so it's pretty worth it. And for a limited time only, you can get in for free if you're one of the first 10 signups on AMXRace.com. So you go to AMXRace.com, you register for the race, and if you're fast enough, you can get in for free. We upload new races all the time, all the way until the end of the season, so make sure to keep checking back at AMXRace.com for more information and for more races. And that's going to do it, I believe, for our housekeeping, which means it's time to get into our race, which means we have to talk about what and where we're racing. And to do that, I'm going to throw things back over to Marco to let us know what's going on.
Oh, yes, we are in Australia, as we were saying earlier. Sandown legendary racetrack opened in 1962, and it's going to be fantastic. With a lot of difficult corners, difficult braking areas, a long backstretch. Really one of the jewels in the racing calendar of Australian motorsport. Very much a pity if this track goes the way of the dodo, as it has been, rumored for so many years. We see the iconic corner there. That's going to be, I'm sure, theater of many interesting moments, of course. Turn 6, 7, and 8. Beautiful, dangerous corner in Australian motorsport. And, we are in Australia. We should use Australian race cars. And here we go with the previous generation V8 supercars, or just supercars, as the series would like you to call them. For me, they're still V8 supercars because they have V8 engines. They have 700 brake horsepower, rear-wheel drive, very heavy, a sequential gearbox. No electronic help whatsoever. Absolutely fantastic, difficult, raw cars that really give you everything that you can want from a proper race car. Holden, Commodore, and the Ford Mustang. What more can you want, Reed?
Yeah, that's right. No, not many other places in the world you get a chance to race in Holdens. Obviously, I think it's the Australian brand for GM, if I'm not mistaken. So they're making cars down in Melbourne, but Melbourne. But you might not get a chance to race in them anywhere else, so it's good to see them out here on the screen today, because it is, like you said, a challenging race. Marco, we're going to get into qualifying, and it's important to note that if you guys are just signing up for every AMX race, it might get a little bit rough. So make sure that you're taking a look at which cars we're racing on the day, because if you don't have any experience with them, you can't necessarily just buy a car, hop in it, do a hot lap, and you're good. It does take quite a bit to master. And if you want to check out the masters who are running in AMX 10 tonight, you can do so by scanning the live timing QR code with your phone. It'll take you to all the live timing info you need for today's race and many more. So make sure to take a look at the live timing. I have it up here on my screen, and so you can too. It's going to tell you a little bit more info about everything going on in the race today, and it also helps you kind of keep up to pace with the rest of the things that we don't show you on the screen. Obviously, we only have one screen. Actually, I guess we have two screens with the picture-in-picture screen. So we're showing you as much as we can. Shout out to our production team that does an excellent job every single race to let you guys know what's going on in the action. But if you want to do it for yourself, check out the live timing link via the QR code. All right, it's time, Marco. We're ready to go around Sandown. And if you had to introduce Sandown, we're not going to do a lap by lap or a corner by corner intro. But what are we expecting here from the supercars on Sandown today?
I'm expecting, as I was saying, a very, very difficult race, but a beautiful race. We are here, as you can see, there's the horse racing track, by the way. As this is the aforementioned turn 6, 7, and 8, heading into turn 9. Okay, that sequence of corners there has been over the years the theater of so many bad crashes. The version we have here in iRacing, it is the latest reworks that they have done to that corner. There is a little bit more runoff, but still incredibly dangerous. And then the corner after, the big braking area for turn 9, incredibly easy. We'll see many drivers go for a little bit of agricultural racing there. It's a difficult lap, but it's also a very short lap. We are lapping barely above 1 minute here, so it's going to be traffic management during qualifying, and in the race, if we have the reverse grid, because night it's crazy night. No, we didn't have it in the AMX 0 race. It's going to be difficult to make those overtakes, especially because these cars, as I was saying earlier, don't play nice with you. They are. It is not a surprise to me that the most recent dominant driver in this series, Shane van Gisbergen, has been able this year, from all the way to America, make his debut in the NASCAR Cup Series and win his debut. Something that has basically never happened in modern NASCAR history. Because these cars prepare you for everything. And he arrived here in the Chicago Street Race and won straight away. Incredible achievement. Next year is going to run a part-time schedule in the various NASCAR, the Cup Series, the Xfinity Series, and the Truck Series. And he's looking to transition full-time NASCAR sometime soon. Because these cars, as I was saying, they are the most difficult, in my opinion, race cars to drive in the world. So once you are competitive in this, you can be competitive in everything. So it's an interesting, especially as I was saying, for a championship like AMX, where you can bounce. You bounce from car to car, track to track. Moving to these cars without proper training, as you were saying earlier, it's a tough job.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm glad that you mentioned SVG, Shane van Gisbergen, a little bit earlier. First driver to win his debut race since Johnny Rutherford back in, the 50s? 63. There it is. I see it on my screen. I didn't know that just off the top of my head. But it's really impressive to see guys go from supercars to maybe something like Brazilian stock car or NASCAR of any of the varieties and show up on ovals or street tracks. SVG really more of a street track expert, and that's why maybe he transitioned a little bit better. But as we're talking about the supercars on your screen today, these are no joke, and I like that Marco's technical explanation for why they are very difficult to drive is really just what you're going to... A picture says 1,000 words, and when the picture moves, you're getting 1,000 words 24 times a second. Or actually, I guess it's 60 times a second if our frame rate's keeping up. So that's a lot of information to take in, but when you see it on your screen, it might look a little bit easier than it really is, because you're watching some of the best drivers, not only just in iRacing, but also in AMX Global League Season 3. Corentin Guinez, Victor Miranda, Kyle Gaspar, Jackson Resenge, specifically Gustavo Ariel, who is way up there on top of the standings of, well, just about everything. Some real titans of the industry up here showing us how to do it in supercars on Sandown today.
And so it looks like it's going to be another chapter of the incredible rivalry between Corentin Guinez and Gael Valero, but of course we have Ariel, Miranda, Gaspar, Resenge, Harrison, and others, of course, that they will do their best to spoil the party for the two Frenchmen. I think they are more than capable of doing so. We have, as I was looking through the live timing, for iRacing, a surprisingly even split between the Holden and Ford, of course, the great rivalry, now GM versus Ford, of course, in Australian motorsport for so many years, as basically we have the same number of cars for both brands. Usually in iRacing, the Holden has been, through the generation of supercars, the more popular one. But, we have a nice... the physics are basically the same of these two cars. It's going to be interesting if iRacing scans the Gen 3 cars that debuted this year, or that have debuted this year, as they say in Australia, because they have different engines now, and they are basically kept balanced with balance of performance measures. So, yeah, as you see, the onboard shot, I think, there of Victor Miranda, if I'm not mistaken, as he's going through this difficult section. Again, turn 6, 7, and 8, braking for turn 9 under the Penrite bridge there. And you prepare yourself for the final few corners of the lap. Again, another chicane, very easy to get it wrong. Clipping those apexes nice and tightly, and down on the power for the start-finish line that comes basically here. And then you have to prepare yourself once again, just a little bit of respite. And down once again for the braking area of turn 1. Another difficult chicane here. It starts with his left-hander, and then the chicane proper. You can see the runoff you have there, added after the reworks for safety reasons. But look at how narrow it is in that pit there. And you have to do those corners well, Reed, because you set up the backstretch, which is basically... So, in theory, the backstretch will prepare you for the best passing opportunity of the lap, no? Usually it works like this in modern racetracks, and old racetracks as well. But here the backstretch leads into turn 6, 7, and 8. And over the years, in real life, the big crashes have happened because the cars were overlapping on the backstretch, and they arrive here, and they have to make a decision. I'm going before you, you're going before me. Drivers are not very keen on giving way to the other. And so they lose contact, and the cars go flying off that wall there on the right. So it's going to be interesting today to see, because I think if drivers can't complete the pass before the braking area, it's going to be difficult to, have a pacific way through turn 6, 7, and 8 if we have 2 or, God forbid, 3 wide going into there.
Yeah, it's a great point, Marco. You come off this huge, fast back straightaway, and then you're into some wobbly bits. I feel like that's a very Australian way to describe a race, Troy. We're about 10 minutes through qualifying. Got about 5 minutes more, which means it's time to throw your hot lap down if you got it. Corentin Guinez and Victor Miranda, I think they're sitting pretty safe up there with breaking the 106 barrier, the 106.9. Corentin Guinez seemingly just tense ahead of everyone else out there. There are some close times. Gustavo Ariel specifically looks like he's got plenty of time to run a few more laps through if it only takes about a minute. So let's see what happens in the final 5 minutes. Kind of unceremoniously, Gael Valero down there in the 107.7s, currently good enough for 12th, or I mean, not good enough for anything higher. That is quite surprising. So wouldn't be surprised to see that time shoot up there. We also had Fabrizio Belziti do very well in our first race of the day. Let's see what he can do here as Gustavo Ariel. Wow, way up to second with a sub 106 time of his own. Sub 107, I guess you can call it. Yeah.
We are seeing two absolutely historical liveries, both belonging to the 888 racing team, who rose to fame with the Vodafone livery with the Fords, and then switching to the Holden team and still keeping the Vodafone livery, then getting sponsored by Red Bull, becoming Red Bull Racing Australia. Still, of course, 888 was behind the scenes for that operation, and now 888 Engineering are building the Camaros that they basically then sell to all the other teams. They are the official team for the GM brand, not only as the factory team, but also for the making the actual cars, producing them. So that's quite an interesting bit of history we have, and of course the Vodafone livery tied to the name of Jamie Whincup, who has won an absurd amount of titles with that livery for 888, and of course the Red Bull livery more linked to Shane Van Gisbergen, and of course not forgetting my favorite driver of all times in V8 supercars, Craig Lowndes, also racing for the 888 team and driving, if I'm not mistaken, with both of these liveries. The back end of his career was done with the Red Bull livery as well.
Yeah, Marco. No, he's my favorite driver. I feel like Marco must have a favorite driver for like every series in the world. Marco, is there a racing series that you haven't watched yet?
The only ones is the ones that are difficult to follow because they are like geo-blocked or they don't have an official streaming platform. But no, surprisingly, I don't have favorite drivers. So the problem with me is that I have a favorite driver. When they retire, I don't pick a new favorite. Favorite F1 driver is Juan Montoya. He has been out of the sport since 2006. So, but I still watch Formula 1. I just don't have a favorite driver anymore.
Ooh, a little bit of a lockup. There's a bump and go. Not what you want to see during the race, and definitely not going to make a qualifying run any easier. Oof, that is not what you want to see. So already you're going to have pits from Belziti, Valero, and who was that we were watching? It was Simon Mori, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, they're going to pit. They're going to come out for one final lap. It's going to take about 1:06 to get around the track, and we're going to see one final chance for some of our racers to do it.
Yes, and like we said earlier, it's going to be then straight into race 1. Of course, we are going to have the prize money dished out already for this quali session. Top 15 get reverse. So right now, Facundo Rago would be your reverse grid pole sitter with current engine as 106.911, 106.982, incredibly tight at the front with Gustavo Ariel, Victor Miranda also incredibly close to him. So the top 3 looking very feisty, the top 4 I should say, but the top everything is very close because we have so many drivers fighting neck and neck. 3 black stripes, of course. 40 seconds left in this last quali session of the day, and then it will be time to race. As we have another crash on the front stretch. Somebody was slowing down to finish their lap, and the guy behind him wasn't paying attention. Something that has happened to me once when I was karting with my friends. Well, the checker flag waved, and my friend, instead of gently slowing down after the start-finish line, he stomped on the brakes. So I was following him up close, and I rear-ended him, and the steering wheel cracked one of my ribs. That's another story.
Okay. I feel like Marco could probably end every single one of his sentences with, and that's another story. So maybe one day, if you do enough races, Marco, you'll have time to tell everything that's happened in your 165 years of racing experience. So I can't wait to be along for the ride for Story Time with Marco. Interestingly enough, the name of his podcast, which he'll be starting any second now, I'm sure. Either way, here's a look at our final standings for qualifying in our 26th AMX 10 race. Quarantine Ganez finds himself on top for not the 26th time, but pretty close to it, with Gustavo Ariel, Kyle Gaspar, Victor Miranda, and Simone de Mori rounding out your top five. Kind of interestingly to see it down towards the bottom part of our reverse grid. The 15th place going to Facundo Rago, with Lucas Dornella and Fabrizio Belziti in reverse order, going to be flipped up to 1, 2, and 3 after that reverse grid comes through, which will put 2 Voracious Racing Team drivers in the top 3. After seeing SimRC, Texaco Racing, and Voracious Racing all represented in the top 3. So really cool to see a lot of different teams competing here today, and some of the most consistent ones being teams like SimRC, who Quarantine Ganez represents quite well up there in the number 1 spot for qualifiers. Now the number 15 spot as we get ready for a rolling start on the stand down for heat number 1.
I like that we keep things unpredictable here on AMX. So rolling start for supercars. You know, why not? In my opinion, it's also a good idea. I'll tell you this, because these cars are incredibly difficult to start. For those that are not used to them, you put the power down, there is no filter. All the 700 horsepower go down on those rear wheels. So there is, I don't know if you've seen the video clips in the first few weeks of this iRacing season, people learning to start the Super Formula car with less than optimal results, so this would be more or less the same. So this is a good decision in my opinion.
We'll get a chance to check it out as we get ready to roll. You can see your starting grid there on your screen. Facundo Rago, Lucas Dornella, and Fabrizio Belziti. With Fabio Zamperlini, round out your top 2 rows of the grid. Down towards the bottom, we did flip Quarantine Ganez, Gustavo Ariel, and Kyle Gaspar back to the back couple of rows on the grid in 15th, 14th, and 13th places, respectively. And now you can see our cars bunching up a little bit. This is weird, but not an uncommon way to start things off. And as the pace car heads out of there, we are ready to go racing here for our beginning of the race. They're going to cross the finish line here in just a second, and we go racing on Sandown with supercars down under. It's Facundo Rago, Belziti, and Dornella, your top 3. Let's see how this changes as we get through our first couple of corners. Corner number 1 coming up. It is very, very sharp, and with an altercation in the midfield. We didn't see too much spinning out going on, but still not the way that guys like Kieran Harrison would have liked to start his race. That gives the opportunity to Kyle Valero, who climbs up. Simone Mori climbing up from the back along with Victor Miranda, making a big move as Kieran Harrison maybe has damage. He is slowing way down in the middle of the pack. This is a really mixed bag as far as starts go, but it looks like most of our drivers are having a pretty good time, including Kyle Valero, Pedro Mora, both climbing up into the top 10.
That was Fabio Zamperini who got a slowdown as we see Dornella cutting the chicane there, and Josh Berwin, the hometown hero. Do you think he's Australian? I don't know, that livery might give us an in.
A little bit. Yeah, Fabio Zamperlini, like you mentioned, Marco, is out of there. He did not get the start he wanted for sure. Might be able to rejoin and get back into the top 15 and get the reverse grid. But in the meantime, you mentioned Josh Berwin. He is coming up right underneath the man who just set the fastest lap of the race, a 1:04.7. What? Marco, did I misread that? Facundo Rago had a 1:04.7 where nobody's... Whoa! All right, we already have another off track. That's Lucas Dornella, who is having to reverse his way back onto the track, hopefully for a safe rejoin, although I do see some smoky smokes back in there as he tries to turn the wheels around the wrong way. In the meantime, we're going to hop back on board with Josh Berwin, who finds himself behind Facundo Rago, Speedy McSpeederson, and Fabrizio Belziti barreling up behind him, less than 2/10, looking for a move into that top 2 spot.
It was a fantastic lap from Facundo, maybe too fantastic in my opinion. I think maybe the timing lines here work a bit weirdly. When you start the races, we see a little bit of pushing and shoving that sends Gael Valero down to 13th place. Big fight for 6th place here as Kazenji and Miranda are exchanging pleasantries. Gustavo Ariel, Kieran Harrison now, Simon De Mori, Corentin Guinness. Big fight as we have a car leaving the pits and rejoining. I think that was Fabio Zampini taking his repairs and rejoining the fight. Sadly down a lap as they try to find a way to get through this first section of corners in orderly fashion. Now easier said than done, of course. Oh, big jump there on the curves by Gustavo Ariel, as there is Jackson Sanchez, Victor Miranda in the black car, and Gustavo Ariel basically closing this Brazilian trio with Kieran Harrison and Simon De Mori rounding up your top 10. This time around 1:08.2 for Facundo Rago, more let's say acceptable time. Maybe again the timing tower, the timing scoring loop is a bit wonky on the first lap. So 1:04 is like stuck.
Yeah, that would take some afterburners for sure. I don't know about that. We do give away $5 for the fastest lap time in Heat 1 and Heat 2. So, yeah, if you can make that happen again, then it's yours. All right, we're on board with Gustavo Ariels on a +6. Josh Perwin, the number 2 driver, on a +5 too. So plenty of incredible starts, but also some not so great ones. Zamperlini, Dornella, the big losers of today, and we're about to see how that happens in our picture-in-picture. That's a little bit of a love tap from Dornella, who tries to weasel his way in there and gets rejected. Back out into now 16th. Not impossible for him to make it to that 15th spot and maybe claim a spot for himself in the reverse grid for heat number 2, which will happen, can confirm. But as we watch the rest of the racers, Victor Miranda, Jackson Nsenje, these guys are really where the action is at. With even Gustavo Ariel less than a 10th behind, this is incredible to see on lap 4 out of 14. Kind of a weird number of laps, but that's the way the cookie crumbles, giving us about 15 minutes of racing. Hard braking into a right-hand corner, and that is, or a right angle. That is going to be very difficult to navigate, but also with the slowing speed it gives. Look at that pinch on the inside, really trying to make his way around, and he does get a nice angle inside that hairpin, or not, it's not a hairpin, it's a right angle. He does make it through. Victor Miranda, Ariel, Harrison fighting tooth and nail already.
That was beautiful sequence between Miranda and Ariel, the two teammates. Moura, Kazenji, Miranda and Ariel, all teammates for Texaco Racing by Tony Kanaan. You could see that Miranda was very aggressive on that curve there in the middle of the final chicane. Seemed like he got a better exit, but the way the car bounced back to the track, he didn't have the time to put the power down in time to stay close to his teammate. Now we're on board with Corentin Guinness, side by side with Kieran Harrison, entering turn 6, and as I told you earlier, the important bit that you complete the pass before the turn. That's what he done, and so now he's up to 9th place.
Yeah, now I am the master, says Kieran, or says Courtney Guinness, who climbs past his SimRC teammate into 9th place. The top 10 is locked out, gate kept by those two drivers, and it'll be up to Kyle Gaspar and Simon Mori to climb their way past. And it looks like this actually might be even possible, as Simon is coming on strong. He is really shaving off those seconds as he climbs his way towards that 10th place spot with a difficult exit from the curb. That is not going to be his time yet. We saw Corentin Guinness on your screen there for just a second as he finds himself in the hot seat. One man against 4 or 5 competitors behind him, all less than half a second, closing in on that top 10 spot. Man, so much action even towards the top of the field. We've got Josh Perwin, Elzidi, and Dean to watch out for. And as we watch Kyle Gaspar, he is looking for the move of his life over Simon Mori. He finds one wheel side by side. He's going for 2 as he pulls alongside, but can't go that deep around the corner. Can he maintain the speed on the outside? No, falls back. A little bit behind, but tries to make the inside line work, and he can't. Oh, Simon rejoins. Great save. I can't even believe he was able to keep that straight. A little bit of a bump and dump, but he keeps himself on the track, moving forward, but falls down to 12th.
Bit of damage on both cars. as we are now seeing that in this latest lap, Josh Purwin has gained almost 4/10 of a second over Facundo Rago. Actually, the gap now down to 4/10 of a second for the race lead, and so this is shaping up to be a nice fight already in the first sector. The local lad has gained 1/10 of a second now, putting his car behind the Argentinians to get all of the draft possible. He is not close to find to have even an attempt at turn 6, but that would be very risky, especially because he has more pace right now. Belziti is sitting there in third place with a nice queue of cars. All the Brazilians basically are queuing behind the Argentinian in this fight for what can possibly be the fight for third, but this race is still so long. We are basically halfway through right now. Lot of things can and will happen. Lucas Dornella right now is your reverse pole sitter, and Gael Valero, well, Villarreal was in Gael Valero having a bad race for his standards, down in 13th. Oh, here we go for the lead.
Maybe not for
bit of contact.
Maybe not for long, and that's exactly what we got a chance to watch. And look at Facundo Rago. He's falling down after a crazy bump. He gets sent all the way back out of contention for that top spot, which goes to Josh Purwin, as we watch him now inherit a 2-second lead over Fabrizio Belziti, who leads this backpack with Pedro Dean, Resenji, Miranda, and Mora behind.
Oh, that was so unfortunate. I think it was a classic case of lag contact between the pair of them. The cars were not close, but still, sometimes the internet connection plays these tricks on the drivers. The collision between the pair of them, one is in Argentina, one is in Australia, and so sometimes these fine margins can result in an error and a collision. Nobody's fault, honestly. But Gustavo Ariel was having a fantastic race. Couldn't do anything to avoid the spinning car. Well, not spinning, I'm sorry. The car was stationary. Sadly, the way it stopped basically on the racing line, again, no fault, because Facundo was just trying to save his car. He smashed right into him with his front end. You will see it right now. Well, no, it was a little bit of a bad rejoin. Sorry, now watching it again on the picture-in-picture, and the damage to Ariel's car, too big yet basically towed. I think his engine went, judging by the fact that he towed immediately, and so he will have to take a fast repair and rejoin the fight. I can't even say he's going to be able to fight for the fastest lap of the race, because nobody's beating that time from the first lap.
I don't even believe that. 104 is that even? I don't even think that's possible. Real life, virtual. That is that you put some NOS in the gas tank for that one for sure. We're hopping aboard with Victor Miranda, who is looking for a trip around Jackson Hisenje, who finds himself in that top 5 spot. Victor Miranda's climbed all the way there, but look at what he's got behind him. Quarantine Guinness and Kieran Harrison. They know what the top 5 looks and feels like themselves quite a bit, but with only 4 more laps around Sandown for heat number 1, the time is running out as we see what happens to Jackson Hisenje, taking some big bumps on the curve, but keeping his position in top 4 secure.
As we move on to the backstretch once again for the 10th time item. 1.5 seconds the gap between first and second, 1.5 seconds the gap between second and third, but the fight for the third, fourth, fifth, sixth is all to play for, as we can see from the onboard of Victor Miranda. As we enter into turn 6 once again, Pedro Jean is having quite the queue form up behind him, a little bit of a bump between the drivers following the 2 teammates, Hisenje and Victor Miranda. I expect Corentin Guinness also make some gains, and this is a big chance for Corentin Guinness, because his title rival, Gael Valero, is in a bit of a spot of trouble, as we were saying earlier, down to 12th place only. He is not liking his race 1.
Yeah, Marco, I'm glad you brought that up because it is a battle for the title, not only for who's going to make the most money this season, as we see some big rejoins happen after taking the mass majority of that curve. Some bumps around the corners. Can't fight for that racing line. Wow, really, really rough stuff here from the supercars. I mean, they're not Superman. They're not invincible and vulnerable. They really do take a beating. And as they take a licking, and yeah, I can't do the analogy. Either way, they survive to race another day here. But what does that day look like? It looks like 3 more laps of neck-and-neck action between Victor Miranda, Jackson Asenje, and Corentin Guinez there in the top 3, 4th, and 5th spot as we watch what happens, or what it looks like from Corentin Guinez as we see what it looks like behind Jackson Asenje, who has that rear view mirror all full of the Frenchman.
A bit of paint scraped on the door side, the right-hand side, driver's side, passenger door of Asenji. Basically, a testament to the scrappy nature of this race. 3 laps to go. And good for Kerwin there at the front, even though the gap is decreasing now down to 1 second, but I don't think that Belziti will be able to, or maybe he will, who knows, come back at the race leader. This fight for third, as we were saying earlier, everything to play for. And also behind them, Pedro Dean and Kieran Harrison is looking good as well for a possible attack there for 6th place. A fight for 8th also is on the way. And Simon Mori has gone past Pedro Mora right now for 10th place. Gael Valero was past Mora as well. So all is happening, and that white flag is getting closer and closer.
Closer and closer, Marco. We are getting ready to close things out here. But for now, there's still a lot of racing happening. Corentin Guinez, like we're watching right now, trying to make up that spot on Asenje. And in the backpack, we have Kyle Gaspar still trying to climb his way into the top 5 with time running out and the seconds falling as well. Kieran Harrison wants his piece of the pie in the top 5 there too, but he's having a little bit of a rougher start here. So this is where the action's at. We find ourselves in that top 5 with Guinez breaking into it, but perhaps not past it. The closing distances for Guinez, Resenje, and also Miranda are starting to run out. So let's take a look at what Asenje can do. This guy is here, and he's been here many times before. He's doing a great job both offensively and defensively, looking to make an overtake of his own over Victor Miranda while defending against Corentin Guinez behind.
Kieran Harrison goes past Pedro Dean there into turn 6. You can see it in the background. Great camera shot by the guys in the production track as the move is finalized. Great move by Kieran Harrison. Facundo Rago is going to try and get a piece of the pie as well, as the white flag is in the hands of our fantastic race marshal Barney. Here we go. You can see him wave with enthusiasm as Belziti is closing in. He's not close enough, I think, to go for a move, but we shall see, because there is still 1 lap.
That's right, 1 final lap remaining, Marco. We are coming down to it. So who is it going to be? Asenje Guinez. That's the battle for third that is absolutely red hot right now. Similar to Facundo Rago and Kyle Gaspar, who are battling it back through in the 9th, 8th, 7th place. What is going to happen back there? It was almost looking certainly that Facundo Rago might make a trip through, but couldn't quite find it. Now drops back by half a second. Up at the top, the battle is just as intense, with Josh Perwin fighting out Fabrizio Belziti for that top spot on the podium. For the rest of the spots on the podium, it's still all to race for here as we find ourselves halfway through the final lap. Marco, it's Asenje and Miranda fighting for third, Belziti, Perwin for first, and more battles happening all the way down the roster. Top 10 is action-packed as we go through the finish line for the final time. It's Perwin Belziti making it across. Victor Miranda, Asenje coming through, and then Guinez and Harrison. Guinez will finish just a little bit ahead of his SimRC teammate Kieran Harrison. The checkered flags are flying for the rest of our racers, Marco, and what a way to finish off our time here in Australia. Heat number 1 is in the books.
Fantastic stuff, absolutely fantastic. Great win for Josh Perwin, the hometown boy, and if we do have a reverse, it's going to be Diego Villarreal, our pole sitter. Of course, I assume that Diego is having quite the time of his life this week. A couple of days ago, after so many years of wait, Uruguay were able to beat Argentina in the World Cup qualifiers in a fantastic match, and so looking good to qualify for the US World Cup in 2026. And of course, the rivalry always translates here onto the track. As you can see, Josh Purwin, Belziti, Miranda, all the Brazilian and Argentinian flags populating our final results. The BenQ session winner, Josh Purwin himself. Jackson Hasenji, Quentin Guinez and Kieran Harrison, Pedro Jean, Caio Gaspar and Facundo Rago, Simon De Mori in 10th, Gal Valero, Pedro Mura and Lucas Dornella, Rafael Casacurta in 14th, and then Diego Villarreal, Fabio Zamperlini and Gustavo Ariel, big names down towards the bottom. Time to breathe, 1 minute, if that, and it's back for race.
That's right, just barely a little bit of a breather because we are getting ready to do it all over again. The sunny countryside of Sandown lasting for a brief 14 more laps. As if I'm seeing this correctly, we are already starting, and we really do not let these guys get too much of a breather. Wiggling around, warming up the tires after a quick reverse grid will send us into heat number 2, starting here in just mere moments. Marco.
And we do have the reverse grid, so everything is back to normal with the world. And so, it's up to Diego Villarreal to lead us to the start-finish line for the final race of the day.
That's right. It doesn't start until he says it does. The reverse grid is through, and we are about to get started with our final heat of the night. Of course, it is here in AMX 10, which means there's even more at stake on the line. $601 split between 3 sections of our race, and we come down to the final one with the start livery in front. The South American racing team leading the way through what is going to be an absolutely incredible start. It will be starting now. There we go. It's time to get underway with our final race of the night. It's Heat 2, and already they actually kick it off in the back. A huge altercation between our back 5 cars, and I think just about that many are out of the running already, Marco. What a way to start things off. The rest of the racers coming through the corner, a little bit bumpy in the back, but still, we got about 15 making it through. Total carnage at the back.
Big drama there for Harrison, for Mori, and for Rafael Casacurta, who was our basically our in our front row. Was sitting in the front row, and then went all the way down to the back of the grid during the brief period we were away. And Diego Villarreal was struggling a bit. Now, the moment we came back live, basically, is looking interesting. Gal Valero and Corentin Guinez. Now, you might be noticing something weird on the screen right now, as Corentin Guinez is missing important bits of his car. But, in this car here especially, the physics, it's one of those problems that with iRacing sadly shows how this car is not very popular. Because even without the rear wing and without the rear bonnet, basically, you can still drive this car perfectly well. And so, Corentin Guinez, despite not having a rear wing, is still perfectly fine to challenge Gal Valero for the race win.
Glad you pointed that out, because there is significant damage on the back of Corentin Guinez's car. But while the damage might be physical on his car, it is certainly not mental, as he is absolutely steely going through that second place spot and even contesting Caio Valero for what would be the win. We're 5 out of 14 laps through our final heat of the night, and the action just couldn't be any hotter. We've got battles for third, battles for first, battles back in the back for the top 10. So much action going on here, Marco, and I might need a little bit of help here, because while we're watching the Battle of the Frenchmen up at the top of the field, we also have a lot of racers charging through the back too. We pay out to the top 15, which means the action in the back is even more important. If you want to find yourself in the cash, we got Caio Gaspar, Dornella, and Simon Mori fighting for those final spots against some oncomers. So it's going to be intense up and down the field. We see another off track. running wide through the corner and barely able to sneak through. Diego Villarreal finds his way up into third.
Yes. And so this big fighting behind them is giving the two leaders even more of a gap. So they are looking good for a 1-2 finish. But we'll see, of course, because then they have to also decide who's going to finish in first, who's going to finish in second. And these two guys don't play nice with each other. Long-standing rivalry in all of the 3 seasons so far of AMX Racing. Another chapter is going to be written tonight in the 8 laps that separate us from the checkered flag here at Sandown.
Yeah, that's right. Sandown has played host to some of the biggest races Australia has ever seen. And in a virtual way, we find ourselves in a very similar spot here today as we watch what I said was earlier was the most intense battle of the race. And indeed, we find ourselves right back at it again with Corentin Guinez down under half a second between himself and Gael Valero, his fellow countrymen, but absolutely at odds against each other now. Civil war in France, man. Name a better combination. Setting 107s up there. Where's that 104 from earlier, Mark? I'm going to keep mentioning that because I have no idea how that happened. But for now, we do have some incredibly fast laps set by both of our 1, 2, 3. And underneath that, with Jackson Hasenje coming through, we also have Kieran Harrison and Simon Morey making big charges. There's action going on absolutely everywhere across the field.
This battle is looking tasty. Corentin Guinez doesn't want to leave the draft of Gael Valero. Gael Valero doesn't want to give his draft to Corentin Guinez. You can see some swerving, especially in the beginning portion of the backstretch. Now, of course, when you arrive at the at turn 6, you can't allow yourself to be offline. So no more moving from either of these drivers. So Josh Purwin, our race 1 winner, enjoying some bad luck because he's now sitting in the pit lane, unfortunately for him, but still, leaving the pits now, so he will probably lose the lap, but he will keep his amazing victory from race 1. Another lap in the books, and once again, this fight looking tasty for the race leader.
Yeah, that's right, Marco. I honestly just hope this stays this way the entire time. Like you mentioned earlier, the draft is important, but at the same time, so is the clean. Well, it's not so much the clean air. It's about when you make your move. So do you just stay here for another 6 laps and just try to hope that you can make it happen at the very last lap? I don't think so, because like we're watching on the back of our screen, the Zamperlini crash down there, you never want to take your spot for granted because absolutely anything can happen. Hold on, I'm saying this to the universe, Marco. Absolutely anything can happen. Okay, we were going through some challenging curves there, and I really wanted to jinx them. But our top 2 drivers keep it pointed forward, and now we might be looking for that move. It was less than 1/10 of a second there for just a fraction of 1/10 of a second, but unfortunately we're going back to business as usual up top, which means there's probably better action elsewhere, although I will say this one just keeps on heating up, so I absolutely don't blame our production team for highlighting this because look at how much action is going on across the field. Once again, we have Simon Morey fighting for that top 10 spot. In the middle, we've got Pedro Mora on a Charger trying to find that top 5. In the back, we've got Gustavo Ariel, who we absolutely know could win this race with plenty of time left, fighting for a top 5, podium finish. There we go. And so there's all to play for in the final 4 or 5 laps of the race.
Yes, indeed. You see behind the 2 Texaco Racing liveried cars. Well, there's 3, of course, because Miranda is also following, but is wearing a black livery. But the 3 teammates from Brazil, sadly for them, a bit too far away to mount a challenge for the race win, but they can and will fight for the podium, for the final step of the podium among each other. With Villarreal, Moura and Harrison also part of this fight, so don't count them out. Lap number 10 starts right now. Kieran Harrison and Moura fighting hard, as you can see from the picture-in-picture. Beautiful work by the production crew, as we see once again Corentin Guinez now Reed, we said it many times, long rivalry, big rivalry, fight for the championship. So far, there hasn't been anything crazy. I say this as they go from the inside. Is Corentin Guinness. I reverse jinxed him because he makes a crazy move, and now they're side by side.
Yeah, wheel to wheel there for not too long, but I think we're going right back at it as Gael Valero and Corentin Guinness continue to absolutely duke it out on the final 4 laps of our time here in Sandown. Supercars living up to their name too as super drivers pilot them around some of the most exciting corners we've seen all day long. For Gael Valero, though, he has to keep it close, and he's not doing that, dropping back to almost half a second. The charge is on as really the action is cooled across the track to give us this as the pinnacle of our AMX 10 race tonight. The Frenchman battling it out all race long, and it just keeps going. Firing on all cylinders, all guns blazing as we go through lap 11. It might be right now coming alongside. It's Gael Valero and Corentin Guinness going wheel to wheel, heating up those brakes, glowing red hot, as does the action. Though by rear wheel for Guinness, continuing to try to find its counterpart right alongside Gael Valero, but it does not matter how much these guys go for it. It's Guinness fighting the defensive drive of his life.
And see the number 17 Mustang getting closer and closer into our rear viewing camera, but good defending from the old number 19 of Corentin Guinness to deny his rival the opportunity for a move there. This battle will probably go down to the wire. There is no way that Guinness or Valero are able to pull away from each other in these remaining 3 laps that start right now, unless one of them makes a big mistake. I don't think this will happen because these two are absolutely amazing drivers. The more they fight, the more they could, make it interesting and maybe bring back Hasenji and Hariel for the win. But they need to make like a big mistake to bring the two Texaco Tony Kanaan drivers back because the gap is still significant. Victor Miranda has lost quite a lot of time instead, and so he is now out of the fight for the podium. We will have to settle probably for 5th.
Yeah, I'm glad you highlighted that at the back, Marco. Really weird. You didn't get a chance to... We don't have the specs for all the cars highlighted all the time. Look at Gael Valero's sectors coming up here, Marco. Tenths every time. And that is exactly what it takes not only to stay close to one of the fastest racers in AMX Season 3. It's going to be necessary to make that time up over the next 2 laps because you need to make this overtake happen. It is impossible. The back end of Corentin Guinness just looking thicker than, some other thick stuff. It's Corentin Guinness leading for now, but for Gael Valero, he has got to make this happen and fast. The action heating up elsewhere as we narrow our way down to the final lap of the race with Pedro Morandin and Harrison fighting, Villarreal, Morandin fighting for that top 5 spot with Harrison, the gatekeeper, in front of them, making it almost impossible. But never say never, because as we are talking, the battle for 3rd heating up at the same time with Ariel fighting against his Texaco Racing by Tony Kanaan teammate for that top 3 podium finish.
Be a grandstand finish as I think Valero is just preparing himself for a last lap lunge on his rival Corentin Guinness, as there was no space there, as you can see in the picture Hasenji and Gustavo Ariel also proceeding with aggressive caution because they are super close to each other. But they are also teammates, so they don't want to ruin everything. A poor exit there from Gustavo Ariel could spell the end of his hopes. Let's see if Gael Valero has an answer for Corentin Guinness or not.
Well, the gap has widened at the front as the action cools down up there. It heats up behind with Gustavo Ariel and Hasenji coming up hot into that top 3-4 battle. Behind that, we do have some action. Pedro Morandin still going hot with Simon Mori and Villarreal in the back stretch. But man, it's our final lap, Marco. It's all come down to this. And I absolutely agree with what you said earlier. He's going for it at the line. Gael speeding up. He was back by a half a second, now closing in, now closing out, off, cooling down. And I think, I don't know if we're going to get the photo finish that we wanted here. We're going to get it from either first, second, or third and fourth. So we've got a lot coming up as our final cars head through our time at Sandown for the final time. It's Guinness and Valero battling it out until the very end, but as the checkered flags fly, it is a 1-2 all-French first row coming through behind. It's a Brazilian battle between Ascension and Ariel, who will finish in that order with Miranda rounding out the top 5.
Oh, what a fantastic race this was, and Corentin Guinness and oh, we have a fight for P12 between the Brazilians, but Rafael Casacurta unfortunately loses the car. Fortunately for him, and fortunately for Lucas Dornella, who can hold on to 12th, only 13th for Rafael there. With Gaspar in 14th, Belziti, Rago, and Josh Purwin, you know, from hero to zero, from the winner in Heat 1 to the last placed car in Heat number 2. But that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, Reed. You like when I say these English figures of speech, you know, out of nowhere.
Oh, I did it earlier. I said I mixed all the marbles and putting it all on the table, which has the same meaning, by saying that you have to put all your marbles on the table, which is basically equivalent to what you did, although you have the excuse of speaking a much more beautiful language, and I'm just doing the best with what I have to offer here. Very similarly to how Corentin Guinness did the best that he could do with what he had. It was good enough for first place, narrowly beating out his countryman Gael Valero, who finishes in second with Jackson Ascension, top finishing Brazilian in third. Two more Brazilian racers behind him to round out the top 5, Gustavo Ariel and Victor Miranda, with the SimRC counterpart of our first place finisher, Corentin Guinness, Kieran Harrison, rounding out the top 6 with a whole host of some of the best racers in history, but also in AMX Global League Season 3. Big surprise for me that race, Marco, was Josh Purwin finishing in 17th after having some incredible performances all day today.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's the beauty of racing, you know, nothing is set in stone. So you can be the winner one race and last in the other, and vice versa. So you know, that's the way it went for him. I'm still sure he's super happy about the way it went. So yeah, we shall see.
Indeed, we shall. That's a look at our final standings for heat number 2 in AMX 0 Race 26, which means that it is all in the books. That's done. That's it for our time here on Sandown. And I don't know if we're coming back here again this season. And that means for the rest of the season, Marco, we're going to be seeing some of the final trips around some of the most iconic tracks in the world here on AMX Season 3. As we wind things down, we have less than 20 races left in a season that had over 72 when we started. It's a little bit emotional, I gotta say.
Can't you feel the Christmas mood getting through? It's also, getting close to the end of the season and end of the year. So, I mean, here in Italy, here in Rome, the Christmas decorations have been up for 2 weeks now. So, I mean...
Yeah, that is, the holiday spirit is in the air, whether it's Christmas or Charismamas, which is what we celebrate at Marco's house. It's been a great season of racing here in AMX Global League Season 3. And, honestly, I came in here a little bit late in the experiment that is AMX, and I gotta say, it just keeps getting better and better every single time. So I can't say enough for how epic this tournament has been, and I can't wait to have more races as soon as humanly possible, which is happening tomorrow, which is basically as soon as humanly possible. And that means that we have to get out of here before we go into our next races. Those are happening tomorrow, and you absolutely do not want to miss them. Marco, what's coming up for everybody that's tuning in then?
Well, we are going to the US of A tomorrow for an interesting doubleheader, and also we are doing like a teamed doubleheader, like sometimes happens. We are going to start from Willow Springs International Raceway, one of the latest tracks in iRacing. We'll be racing there with the LMP3 cars, the Lige JSP 320. Beautiful car. After that, we take a short trip to Watkins Glen International, the endurance layout for the LMP2 cars, the Lara P217 for both races there. So LMP3, LMP2, a small interesting track in Willow Springs, and then a endurance staple like the Glen. Fantastic doubleheader coming in 24 hours or less.
Thanks for the breakdown, Marco. That's going to do it for our racing tonight. In the meantime, before we meet you again tomorrow, sorry, I'm just caught up by all this greatness. Make sure to follow us on social media, on Twitter and Instagram. We'd love to hear what you have to say, so you can let us know down there. We'd also love to get a little bit of support from you guys by following and subscribing to us on Twitch and YouTube, wherever you're watching us. We'd love to see some love back from you. Thank you so much for watching us wherever you do. It means the world to us, and we'd love to see you back here again tomorrow. In the meantime, you guys can join our AMX Global League Discord by clicking on the link on our website or by just searching for AMX Global League Discord. There it is. We'd love to see you in there. You can ask questions from any of our pros that you see race tonight, and also post a few memes or cat pictures or whatever you feel like on the day. That is it for today, but if you'd like to sign up, there are still tickets open for our next race tomorrow. So you can do that on amxrace.com. Just like you can all the time. And if you are fast enough to sign up for our next AMX 10 races coming up, you can do that for free if you are one of the top or one of the first 10 signups for those $600 races like you just got a chance to see on your screen. So electrifying, and you do not want to miss being a part of the final 10 races I think we have coming up for AMX 10 this season. So you do not want to miss it. amxrace.com is the place to be. Thank you so much, Marco, for joining me here today. Big shout out to our production team behind the scenes, to our racers, viewers, and everyone in between. Thank you so much for being a part of us, being a part of AMX Global League Season 3 with us today. We'll be back here tomorrow to do it all over again. You do not want to miss it. We'll see you then.